I am joined by Ian Selley. Thank you very much for joining me, sir. Much appreciated. So, I think the first thing that we want to talk about today is some of those customer experiences signals that are your sort of key markers for fraud. What should we be looking at? What should we be thinking about?
The most obvious ones, anything account takeover related. So, new device, new network, they're generally two of the most common things you'd see with account takeover fraud. Again, you're going to suddenly see new beneficiary, new locations, everything that screams, this is not the genuine customer. You suddenly get a 80-year-old customer typing with the speed of a 20-year-old, or, if you ever given your phone to your gran and watched your gran type, she generally holds it in one hand, presses it with one finger. Yeah, if you give it to your 8-year-old niece, her fingers are going like a blur. So those are signals you'd get that could tell you that it is not a genuine customer. And those are some of the most obvious signals that we can get from the account takeover space. However, you do see genuine ones. Even my own mum told me that, she got my sister to help set up a bank account. You just sit there and go, thanks, mum, that makes my job harder. But on the flip side, you get a lot of the things from scams. So scams is the most popular thing we see from a frauds type. And that's where it's some of the more obvious signals that you get, because everybody does, you think this looks really fraudulent, and yet when you look at it, lots of the genuine population are doing it. And it's often combinations of things. So you might get somebody who is sharing their screen. Now, lots of people work from home, lots of people use screen sharing, lots of people use, the legitimate vendors to do that. So do the fraudsters. But then you layer that in with other things, such as we can see, the customers on the phone. And that's the bit when you start layering that in. So somebody on the phone making a payment, well, lots of people do that. And then it's just layering that in to sit there and go, well, is it a new beneficiary? How much are they paying? What relationship have we seen that beneficiary have with other customers? Is it a beneficiary that we've seen, lots and lots of genuine payments go to, in which case that's a lot less suspicious than a brand new account suddenly receiving lots of money. So it's a factor of, there's not one silver bullet out there that would say this is definitely scam. It's layering all those signals to say, well, I've got to almost try and stop as much fraud as efficiently as possible, because I can't just stop everything that looks strange. Otherwise, very rarely would you let a new beneficiary be paid.
That was going to be my next question, really. How do you ensure that you're intervening appropriately without actually breaking trust with customers who expect to be able to do what they want to do and they think is the right thing to do within their online banking or otherwise?
You almost apply and you might find this, but it's almost like a risk-based strategy in there, and you've got multiple layers. So the first thing we'd have is effective customer warnings. So you're logging into the payment, and we're using the tooling in the background to set there going, well, this is a new beneficiary, this is flagging. We can see a couple of the markers present that say some of the things you're doing makes us, a bit uncertain that we think this could be fraud. So we're going to send a message to you to say, we think you're being scammed, or are you sure you're happy with this payment, just so we can get you going away. And likewise, if we can see that this is a new device and other things, we won't put it through that journey because we don't have the trust on that device. And then depending on the type of payment you're doing would depend on whether we're trying to put it in-app through a push notification, or whether or not we'd ask you to give us a ring. Or if you've got concerns that it is a fraudster on a false device, we would then just look to bluff. So it's trying to pick out the type of fraud you're dealing with to try and get the right level of friction. So you can't just block every customer out their account because, oh, hang on, I was sending 10 quid to my brother, he's lost his phone, so I'm trying to. But it is just trying to make sure that you can just put the warnings at the right place.
How much of that do you think should be reactive, and how much of it do you think should be proactive? Because it sounds very much like there's a degree that has to be proactive ultimately, because of the fact that you're trying to stop people from doing the bad thing in the first place. What's the balance there?
I think a lot of the proactive thing, if you think about it, all the education is out there about scams, thinking about scams. If you go to any bank, they'll have a whole piece within the app or on the website telling about scams or what not to do. It's been in the telly, it's been everywhere. There's your shows. Even people get so used to it, they never think they're all victim for it. I even had my own mum ring me up saying, I've had an email from HMRC. You're like, delete it, mum. It's a scam. And no, they've told me I've got a refund. And you're like, mum, you're retired. What, and you go through it. I spent half an hour on the phone convincing her it's a scam.
I can't tell you the amount of times that we've called someone up on the show and they've gone, oh, I watch your show all the time. And you think, hang on.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's the point. How we've educated you, you watch this, you've got good engagement. So whilst you can be proactive, is your point now, well, I watch your show. Well, you've still fallen for the scam. So people become almost so used to seeing the messages that you fall through it. And that's why you have to put extra friction to the journey in order to be reactive and say, well, look, we think this could be a scam. Are you sure? Have you checked the beneficiary? It's just trying to break that cycle to just get someone to stop and think about it. Your piece you did before, it's all about they're trying to put the pressure on you to do that payment quickly, and it's just speak to somebody. Because, if my mum hadn't rung me up, and that was just an email she received, she would have just clicked, gone through, done it. And that's the bit, you're just getting customers to stop and think, is this the right thing? Does this seem normal?
I've got one perhaps cheeky question for you, Ian. If there was one trigger you could pull in terms of a kind of game-changing piece of technology or a game-changing piece of legislation that would fix so many problems in this space, what would it be?
This might sound controversial, but I think it's that piece that you'd almost have to make part of the delivery networks for the fraud partly then responsible for the crime. So your example you had was investment scans. You search for those on Facebook. So, as you said, Facebook is facilitating a lot of the fraud. Our customers are having to come in contact with the fraudsters. What channels are they happening with? And I think that's the piece, that if you've got an area that is just allowing that contact to happen, and I mean, as you sit there and go, well, you'd think it'd be quite easy to sit there and go, well, we know which are the official channels for all the banks, we know which are all the the channels for regulated companies. If this is not something, then why is it being allowed? And you could come at that from the point of either, even from the FCA sort of saying, well, you're allowing unregulated investments on your app. That would be one of the simplest things to potentially stop it. But they would find another way.
They always do, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can never stop fraud. It's just pushing it away to then watch it come back.
I think you're so right in that the example that I hark back to in my own mind is the age of kind of music streaming that we're in now. Everybody pays a subscription to be able to stream music. Everyone pays a subscription to be able to stream telly, right? 15 years ago, everybody had Napster and was stealing music, and everybody was downloading torrents from the Pirate Bay so that they could watch whatever movies they wanted to watch, right? The industry responded to that. They made it very, very difficult to be able to do that stuff anymore, and they sold their customers a model that actually people wanted and that people were willing to use and pay for. And in doing so, completely eliminated the platforms which provided that criminal means of digesting their content in the first place. Why can't we have the same for fraud and with the social media networks? You don't need to comment on that if you don't want to, but that was just a final thought. We're out of time. Thank you so much, Ian. Really appreciate it.